Mike, I think we need a little more exposure for our podcast, and I've got the perfect idea on how to do it.
Hit me.
You're running for U.S. Senate. Think about it. You're out there, you're on TV, you're kissing babies, you're high-fiving people, you're shaking hands. We get the name out, Forgotten Cinema. Mike Field of Forgotten Cinema for U.S. Senator. It's going to be great. It's going to be big.
So what I'm hearing is that you're telling me I look like Robert Redford. Nice.
Let's just get to the episode.
We're doing the candidate. Right? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to Forgotten Cinema. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a movie more popular was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or perhaps don't love about it, but we will always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy Forgotten Cinema, we want to hear from you. Get out and vote. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are available on all platforms with a backlog of over 250 episodes for your listening pleasure. Woo!
I got to tell you, you blew up the sound recording. The levels are like...
So
thanks, Quimby. At first you started Quimby, and then you changed
well,
it.
no, because I can do that. I can't keep going. I wasn't going to do Kennedy and Quimby. There's no way. So the reason why I did that is because of the movie this week. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Oh, right. Your speech, like... You know, I was just doing my lawyer stuff. I was helping. I was saving like the frogs and swamps and trees and stuff, doing some hippie lawyer stuff.
Why are you saving swamps? Oh, go ahead.
And then because of the watershed. And
right.
All of a sudden, Peter Boyle came up to me and he was like, "Hey, how would you like to run for U.S. Senate as a Democrat?" And I was like, "I don't think I'd do very well." And he said it didn't matter. I would lose anyway, but I got to say what I had to say in front of a lot of cameras and actually kind of try to make my point to a lot of people. So I was like, what the hell? Let's go. And then I kind of got way too into it and started becoming a generic, bland politician at the end.
We're doing the candidate. Obviously, I said that already in the YouTube episode, and I don't even know if we're going to use the opening for our YouTube for the podcast, but we're doing 1972 as the candidate. Mike, did you ever hear this film?
I mean, I could say I think I've heard of the title, but at the same time, it's such a generic, it's the candidate that it's like tough to know if I did. I think I've seen the poster before with him with the bubble gum.
Yeah.
But I have never seen this movie, and I never heard what the movie was about.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I came to this movie, probably 5 or 10 years ago, and I can't remember why. I can't remember how. I think I just watched it, and I really dug it. So when I put it on the list, I put it on there because I knew it was a movie that is not often talked about within Redford's lexicon of films now. Maybe back then it was.
Right.
But now you don't really talk. Not a lot of people know Redford back in the 70s, and definitely people younger than us.
I mean, probably the only 70s movie they know of is Butch and Sundance.
Right. And they're probably just like the dude from the Marvel movies. So,
from the 2 Marvel movies he was in.
Right. Was it 2? He was just in 2, right?
He was just in 2.
Yeah. Okay. So anyways, I really liked it. I always remember really enjoying the final, just kind of like what happens to him, what happens to Bill McKay, and then the last couple lines at the end of the movie. It kind of really struck with me. That's why I put it on the list. So I'm actually glad we're doing it. And it's kind of, even though this is going to come out in December?
No, this is November. I'm pretty sure.
Is it November?
Yeah.
But it's going to be after the election that's happening. We're recording this about a month before the presidential election.
This might be election week. We might have timed it perfect.
Excellent. Anyway,
I don't know that for sure, but
I thought it would be good to do kind of something like that.
Yeah,
during this
for
time.
sure. Yeah,
because
I think I remember you saying that during.
Right. Yeah. All right. So. We're not going to do a synopsis. Right? You kind of gave it that. You can.
I think they got it. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into the facts, and then we'll talk about the movie. The candidate
already started doing.
Right. The candidate has a runtime of 110 minutes. It's rated PG. Production budget of $1.6 million. Now, here's where we're going to get into the weeds here, because I have a release date, but I don't think it was released wide in theaters. I think it was just released in New York City.
Oh, not wide ever.
No, because
Okay.
the release date's a Thursday, June 29th, 1972. And then I have no numbers for what it did in theaters. Nothing whatsoever. I have rental numbers, domestic rental numbers, which is the United States and Canada, for 2.5 million.
That's bizarre.
And then I have a worldwide total of 44 million, which I don't know if that's rentals, theatrical. I don't know. So I couldn't tell you.
You got some weird numbers.
Yes.
Like you have rental numbers.
Yeah.
But you don't have actual release numbers.
So I can't. So here's the thing. I can't really give you like what I can give you what it went up against, but we're going to do it a little differently this time around.
But if it was up for, we'll get into it. It won for best original screenplay. So you would think it would have played in Los Angeles, at least in some capacity.
Maybe it did. Yeah. I mean, but we're talking like early 70s. This is not really
This is
the
before
box office,
Megaplexes. This
Yeah.
is pre-Jaws.
So, and movies now are extremely popular. Like movies back then was just, I don't think it was as popular as it is now. It's not as, you know what I mean? You don't have like so many people trying to be filmmakers or trying to be in the industry.
Sure.
Right. A lot of people that were that got into the industry back in the day was just like, yeah, I thought I'd give this a whirl. And all next thing you know, editing Godfather or whatever, stuff like that. So I'm going to assume that it was out in the city for a while, and in the 70s and back then when movies came out, they stayed out for a long, long time. They were out for like months upon months because they just sat there. They didn't have, release dates. When we have rental dates, it's like they went to VHS for rental, but like you wouldn't be able to own this film until years later even if you wanted to.
Could you even really?
Not even back then.
People couldn't even own a VHS back then, right?
No.
Yeah.
So you were always renting these films. So I'm going to give you movies because when you look at like the movie list of back in the 70s and early 70s, there's like maybe like 3 movies a month. Like that's it. Like that's all they have listed.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the bigger films that came out in 1972. And so when I give you like this February 2nd one, I'm assuming it's still in theaters. Okay. And then I'm going to give you, so then this came out on the 29th of June. I'm going to give you some all the way through August because I'm going to assume that the candidate was still out around August. It probably was out throughout the entire year, but I didn't want to do the entire year.
Okay.
So February 2nd, 1972, you had A Clockwork Orange came out in theaters. March 9th, you had What's Up, Doc? March 15th, The Godfather. March 24th, Skyjacked. It's a Charlton Heston film. June 14th, you had Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. So that's the movie that came out that's kind of big, closest to this film.
Right.
July 14th, which is a couple weeks after, you had Joe Kid, which is a Clint Eastwood film. August 6th, you had Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, But Were Afraid to Ask, which is a Woody Allen film, and definitely a Woody Allen film. The City in New York City in 1970s is a big film.
Yep.
And then August 30th, you had the horror film The Last House on the Left, the original, maybe, yes, or maybe another remake. I'm not sure.
That should be the original.
So those are kind of like the big films that were out and about around the time that this film came out. So I guess you can kind of say that was the competition, but not in the sense of when we usually do this thing on the show where you actually have, it came out the same day.
Movies going ahead.
Right. Okay. So this film was distributed by Warner Brothers. It was directed by Michael Ritchie, who has done the 1976 film, The Bad News Bears. He also did Bad News Bears Go to Japan. He did Fletch and a movie that we did on the show, Digstown. Mm-hmm. Written by Jeremy Larner, who's done Drive, he said, which is a novel, and he wrote the screenplay for it. And then he became a poet, and he really hasn't done much. He hasn't really done in terms of like screenplays or anything like that.
Yeah, which is weird. He won an Academy Award for it, and then he just went, eh.
Yeah, he won this movie won an Academy Award for, you know what? Let me give you what the name of the category is.
Okay.
Best writing, story and screenplay based on factual material not previously published or produced. Like, I'm going, well, it's not really adapted.
But it's not.
It's not really original. I don't understand this category.
I'm glad they just made it original and adapted.
But anyways, he won. He did win the Oscar for this
I guess
film.
though, if you're gonna go out, you might as well just go out on top. He won the Oscar, so it's like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah,
I can only go downhill from here.
And we'll get into a little bit, how he wrote this and
how he had a bad time writing it.
and kind of what he did, and I have some quotes in there from him. Cinematographer was Victor J. Kemper, who's done Clue, which is an episode we did, The Final Countdown, which is an episode we did.
We've done a lot of movies.
I know. And Dog Day Afternoon, which we have not done. Dog Day Afternoon, that is. I know I kind of rambled that out there. Composer was John Rubinstein, who is also an actor. He's well known for Children of a Lesser God. I don't really have a lot of his stuff that he composed. I don't really think a lot of people knew, so I don't have it here. So sorry. Edited by Robert Estrin and Richard A. Harris. Estrin has done Badlands and A River Runs Through It. And Harris has won an Oscar for Titanic, and he did The Bodyguard. He also does a lot of James Cameron films, especially the early ones in the 90s. Walter Koblenz is the producer. He was nominated for an Oscar for All the President's Men, which was nominated for Best Picture. And he also did Space Camp. Everyone remember Space Camp? Do you remember Space Camp? 1986?
I've seen it, but I felt like
Jinx sends Max to
long
space.
time ago.
Didn't think I remember that, but I do. Good old Jinx. This film obviously stars Robert Redford as Bill McKay. He's only been nominated for one acting Oscar for The Sting. He's been nominated for director and for Best Picture for Quiz Show, and he won an Oscar for directing Ordinary People. Which is, like...
Well, like you've said on the podcast many times, like he was like the Brad Pitt of his era. Just people were thinking, oh, he's just a pretty boy.
Yep.
Not realizing that he can act.
Remarkably so. He's also, I think he got a honorary one, but I don't think it was for like just, hey, you're Robert Redford. I think it was for community service or something like that. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Trying to one up his boy Newman.
No, maybe. I don't know. Peter Boyle, as Mike said, plays Marvin Lucas. He is the campaign manager who talks him into this. He's in Young Frankenstein, the TV show Everybody Loves Raymond, and Taxi Driver. And of course, he's Clyde Bruckman from X-Files.
I was going to say, if you're going to TV shows.
You know, come on, Quantum Leap, X-Files. You know that. You know it's going to come out.
Final Repose.
Melvin Douglas as John J. McKay, who is Bill McKay's dad. He was the former governor. That's in this movie. But he's won 2 Oscars for Being There and HUD. And he was nominated for an Oscar for I Never Sang for My Father. And he's also in Ninotchka. I just wanted to say that name. Don Porter as Senator Crocker Jarman. He's got a voice that I'm like, I've heard this voice before, and I couldn't find where I couldn't find like the show or the movie that I heard him in, and maybe he just sounds like someone I think he is. But
He's got a bit of a Nixon thing going on.
Yeah, but people will know him from the TV show Gidget. If you remember Gidget, when Sally Field was very, very, very young. Mike has no idea what I'm talking about. Do you remember Gidget?
I know she was in a show called Gidget.
Yeah, well, obviously,
or whatever. Yeah,
that was her like big.
That's all I know about it.
Oh man, that was her big thing. He's also in She Wolf of London and Night Monster. Alan Garfield as Klein. He's the guy that does all the video stuff. He's from Beverly Hills Cop 2. He plays the boss, right? He plays the commander, right?
Sure,
yeah. He's also in The Conversation, which was an episode we did, and Let It Ride. Karen Carlson is Nancy McKay, Bill McKay's wife. She's in a movie called The Octagon. Quinn Redeker as Rick Jenkin. He's one of the guys that works for the campaign. He actually was nominated for an Oscar for writing the story of The Deer Hunter. He's also on the TV show The Young and the Restless, which is a soap opera. Morgan Upton as Wally Henderson. I think he's another member of the campaign. He's in Peggy Sue Got Married, which is an episode we just did. Mm-hmm. And he also provided a voice of a stormtrooper for Star Wars.
Nice.
It's a weird credit. And then Michael Lerner as Paul Corliss from Barton Fink, which was nominated for an Oscar. He's also in Godzilla. He plays the Ebert character in Godzilla, and he's also in the movie Elf. And then you got a couple politicians, a lot of politicians and celebrities in here. Hubert Humphrey, George McGovern, John Tunney, and then you had Natalie Wood in there real quickly for a quick scene as herself, kind of like meeting Bill McKay. We went over the Academy Award winner Jeremy Larner. It was also nominated for Best Sound, which is Richard Portman and Gene Cantamessa. And then, that's it. That's all I got. So I got a couple other facts, but we're going to talk about the film. We're going to talk about the movie. I kind of already revealed kind of how I felt about the film, but Mike, I'm curious what did you think of The Candidate? Or I guess first impressions.
It was okay.
Ooh, here we go.
It definitely gave me like heavy Ides of March vibes in terms of like working on the campaign and just doing whatever you can to make your candidate win, not really having a moral backbone kind of a thing. But I think this would be better as a stage play. I don't know if it worked as well as a film. They say sound design, like best sound design, but like the fact that like conversations start and end and I can't hear half of it, it just bothered me. I know that's also kind of like a 60s, 70s kind of like hip style, like, oh, the person's all real far away, so let's keep the microphone by the camera so you can't really hear. I hate that shit. I don't like it. It happens throughout this entire movie. And I'm just like, nope, if I can't hear what they're talking about, then why do I care about the scene? I don't care that he's like talking with all these girls. I don't care. Let's go on with the story. Let's get some story going. So parts of that bothered me. I really hoped they focused more. Like I thought his descent from person who had something to say to person who would do anything just not to be embarrassed and win was so like it happened. As soon as that he said his spiel on his debate, and then his dad came and endorsed him, all of a sudden now I'm a dick. And he's not a dick. He's just kind of like he sold his soul. And it's just like it was so sudden that I would have rather it be gradual. But it was an interesting look back. Like I think with Ides of March, it's an interesting look at the side of politics that, I really usually could care less about or don't really, and nobody really knows about. Like that the shady parts of like campaigning and just, saying whatever it takes and not being overly specific because people don't like that, and having people in your ear all the time going, look this way and look that, don't look up because then it looks like you're looking up to them and stuff like that. So I still think that's fascinating. So I enjoyed the movie, but I just think there was a better movie in there if they took their time. But I know this movie was kind of rushed in terms of we want to get it out by election season. Yeah,
the movie was kind of Redford's idea, and he wanted to do it with Ritchie, the director, because Michael Ritchie worked as a technical director on a few political campaigns. So that's why he kind of wanted him. And yeah, you're right. They only had 30 days to write the script. So it was
filmed in 41 days.
Right, and they filmed, and I think you can see that they're just trying to get shots and trying to get, like, it does feel haphazard, but I think that lends itself to the idea of that's what a campaign is. A campaign is messy. The campaign is just chaotic. People are working for free half the time.
I do like that they keep pushing them around into different, like it's just even Crocker gets out of the helicopter, goes back into the helicopter, just kind of gets rushed around. I did like that.
But yeah. And it's that's kind of like what campaign life is. That's what campaigning is. If you follow, the election cycle and you follow like the candidates now, you just need, they're here at 4 and they're here at 5 and then they're here at 7:30 and then they have a 15-minute and you have a window of this. Like that's legit. Like even now it's legit, even worse because it's just your time is just so divided up between everything because there's so many things too.
So many platforms you have to.
Yeah. I mean, like this is just a Senate campaign in the state of California. So, and California is huge. So, you're just going around across the entire state, just kind of, slumming for votes, I guess.
Yep.
So I do think I know what you're talking about in terms of the sound design and they're talking and there's multiple conversations going on. I'm actually okay with that. I think it lends I think that lends itself to the idea of how chaotic a campaign is. I also know that it's shot like a documentary kind of style. Like you're looking behind the scenes of a campaign. I'm okay with that. I love it in Jaws. When they do it, I don't do it as bad as they do it here. It's not as much.
It's not throughout the whole.
But
movie.
I love it in Spielberg films when he at Jaws they do it, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Those are films from the 70s where there's conversations going on in the background, and the conversation you have to be like Brody's on the phone and his wife's helping the son with the cut finger, and they're talking. I like that because that's life. I understand what you're saying. It is. There's a lot of stuff going on. You are missing stuff because you hear somebody talking and then they're fading off, and then. Like Redford's having a conversation and someone's talking to themselves and someone's talking to him and he's like, what?
Yeah,
what?
Any part of anybody's conversation.
But I think that's but I think that's kind of the point.
But it's so much of the movie that I feel like it pads it out and like it's taking away from the fact that it is supposed to be a character study. I'm losing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing that I don't hear what he's saying. I don't know him. I don't know him. Even when at the beginning, if he's supposed to be insincere or not, I don't know. I don't know him enough. I feel like I should have been able to hear what he's trying to say to these people.
Who you're saying you don't know if
I don't know Bill McKay
sincere enough.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe
I know he cares about his lawyer issues because that was his big thing and his people liked him, but that's all I know.
Well, I am always a plot driven story bias. I always have that. I like stories that are plot driven. That doesn't mean I don't like character-driven stories, but I think that this is almost a character piece. I don't think this is.
Oh, for sure, it's not a plot piece. Yeah,
right. And I don't think it's. See, I didn't think that it was so quick that you thought it was like really quick that he turned. I think it's gradual. I think it's a gradual decline in terms of his own See, I think there's two things. It's how does Bill McKay view himself? Does he view himself as somebody like a social raider? He's somebody who is always there he doesn't want the limelight. He doesn't want to be like his father. He doesn't want to be like a senator. He doesn't want any of that. But he still says yes. He still is like intrigued by Peter Boyle's character. What's his name again? Lucas. When Lucas comes in and says like, oh, you just lose. And he still says yes. It's not like he kicks him out of the house, thinks about it, and then goes back. He still says yes.
Sure.
So he's still kind of, he's his father's son. So I think whether we think that Bill's lying to himself about the type of person he is, and this is just a realization of you are really this is what you want.
Sure.
You're just, you know what I mean? Like, or is outside forces really polluted him to be somebody he is not? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think this has always been who Bill McKay is, even though he pretends he's not.
I mean, I think that you can say that about like everybody until like the limelight hits him and stuff.
100%.
Like any kind of celebrity story. But it does seem like at the beginning, the whole thing is he goes, I can say whatever I want. Like he wants to use that platform to just espouse his, beliefs and what he tries to protect as a lawyer.
Yeah. But then it becomes real.
He loses. But then it becomes real. And it's like, well, you're going to lose as like, I think there's two steps to his. So it's not like, it's partly immediate. When Lucas says you're going to lose like an embarrassment, you're going to be an embarrassment. There's losing. And then there's like this kind of losing. And then he's like, well, that wasn't part of the deal.
Right.
And that kind of makes him a little bit more like, let's do some of the stuff you say.
Right.
And that kind of wakes him up. But his descent into saying the same thing and not standing for anything, I think that's what happens like right away.
Well, he's vague in everything he stands for, so that he can, because Lucas tells him like you are appealing to the people that are already going to vote for you. We need to appeal to people that are on the fence, which is like in every politician's run for office. So he has to play the game, and he thinks but it's almost like, okay, I'm making little concessions here and there. And then eventually it becomes where like you've made concessions for everything, and including things and here's the one thing that I really, really like. He's cheating on his wife.
I was going to ask you, yes, like, I know all the women are coming on to him, but then at the end in the hotel scene,
absolutely,
that's not his wife going down the hall. I'm like,
absolutely cheating on his wife. Right. Absolutely. He's late to the meeting, and then she's like, absolutely. But it's not at the forefront. It's not like a big part of it's not part of the story. Right. It's there. And if you're looking for it, like that's Bill McKay.
But like I feel like, but if that's the case, he's probably been doing it the whole time.
He was doing it up to the point when she went up to him and whispered to him, and he listened. Like he wasn't like, oh no. And like, do you remember the girl coming up? Yeah. And then you kind of saw her one more time. You kind of see her sometimes.
She's at some of the
kind of floating around. And then when you see her in the hotel room, he's been absolutely cheating on his wife with her.
But I also feel like he was probably doing that before he even ran. Like they're not in love. That's clear from like the very beginning.
No, because they make love in the beginning of the movie. But still, they're together. They're a couple.
They're hot people that are married. Of course they're gonna bone.
You don't have that scene where they make love, because you're showing who Bill McKay is now to where he goes, to what happens to him. You don't have that scene, because that's what makes the other stuff so.
Yeah, but like at the same time, then she shouldn't be like let's say Ides of March.
Okay.
One of the things I like about Ides of March is when they're in the limo together, like George Clooney's character and his wife, they're very lovey-dovey. They're clearly in love. Sure. It's nice, whatever. And then you find out George Clooney's doing this. Bill McKay and his wife, Mrs. McKay, I don't remember her first name. Nancy. They're clearly, other than the fact that they make love in the hotel room, which she was complaining about because she'd rather go to the ball.
No, that's their house. That was their house.
Was it a house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because she'd rather go to the ball.
Right.
It's just like she's just more interested in making a bigger name for herself, clearly going to these fancy schmancy parties. She's not really, when it's like, who's going to run for senator? Oh, really? You should do it. She's not into him. She's into the status.
See, I didn't get that out of that. I just think she just wanted to go to the ball. But also, again, I'm not focused on her. I'm focused on him a little bit more.
I just think they were both so like, they don't like, and she comes with a riding outfit and like, I'm going to take pictures for Vogue. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's just like, I just don't.
She could be seduced to the idea of being a senator's wife and all that comes with that.
Yeah, I just never got the feeling that they were ever really like in love.
No. I think so. I think they were together. Maybe. I mean, I think you're asking for another 20 minutes of movie for me to dive into that.
Cut some of the garbage dialogue that I can't hear, and like cut some of those scenes.
You need all that,
and like let me get some stuff where I can see. I want more of Bill's descent where I can see it and I get it. If it's a character study, that's what I should get.
I think it's there though. I just don't think it slaps you in the face. I think this film, like, I think if you watch this movie again, not that I go watch this again, but if you watched it again, I think you would pick up on some of that other stuff now. I think it's there. It's all there. Like, I think they both sacrifice who they are for what they could become. The wife, and Bill and Nancy.
Yeah, I think she gladly sacrificed.
Okay, but so does he. So does he. It's not like he pushed that girl away when she comes up to him and whispers in his ear.
I'm not talking about the poo-tang he can get. I'm talking about his descent into his his other like morals.
Well, because he wants it now. Yeah, because he wants to be a senator now, and he knows that if I'm going to do it, I have to play the game. But then at the end, he's just like, "What did I do?" Like, I love the last line at the end.
The end of it is great. It's very stage played.
Yeah.
That's, I like that. Yeah.
But it's like
you didn't expect to win.
Yeah. Because he was just, and then he did. And now it's like, well, now what? Like, he's like, what do we do now? And Lucas is just like, what? And they all leave. And I'm like, where are they going? Doesn't he have to make a thank you
Lucas,
speech?
But Lucas doesn't care.
No, Lucas will be out of there. He'll leave once he wins.
He's not part of his cabinet. He wouldn't be.
Well,
he could take him on because he still
if he wants, but Lucas might be somebody who like, this is what I do. I help you win campaigns.
I feel like but I also feel like Lucas never wins. Because I think like Lucas just deals with Democrats. So that's why the beginning, the first guy he's working with also loses. And it's like, tough break. Yeah, well, I'm going over here now. Like, they're just used to like losers. Oh
no, I thought he wasn't the campaign manager of that campaign that lost. I thought he was just there.
Oh, was he? And the other guy who was talking to him was the campaign manager there?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it could be that way. It could be whatever I'm saying.
Either way, it seems like they're used to losing.
Oh,
so it's like he doesn't care as long as he gets his $1,000 a week, his room and board, and his food allowance or whatever.
Yeah, and then a couple things here and there. All right, let's jump into some of the behind the scenes stuff because we could probably talk all day about the movie, and I'm sure we will. Like,
there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, we can, but I want to talk a little bit about how it got put together. So I told you that Redford wanted Michael Ritchie because he was the technical director on a lot of other political campaigns.
Sure.
Lerner actually wrote political speeches. The writer wrote political speeches for the presidential candidate Eugene McCarthy in 1968. So, he obviously had some experience with campaign work and campaigns. He only had a month to write the script, and he wrote from noon to 3 a.m. every day. And that's what he said. But he also got help from Robert Towne. For those who know Robert Towne's writer, producer. So he was getting a little help, but he was getting notes obviously from Redford, I'm sure. He has a couple quotes here about the actual just putting together the movie. He quote, Warner's, which is Warner Brothers, would not have financed the film were not Redford willing to take responsibility for it. And though he did not want the credit, he was the most conscientious producer from beginning to end. And the movie certainly reflects his personality. So Redford, I assume, is all over the pre-production and production and just kind of like making sure that they got what they needed to get.
And a super good guy, maybe.
Of course. Well, Redford, movie was supposed to be a labor of love. Like I said, him and Ritchie worked on this. They worked on Downhill Racer, which is a movie they did prior to this. And when they approached Lerner with this film, they said it's basically, quote, a candidate who sold his soul. That's what the movie is about. Right. Obviously, that's what we talked about a little bit ahead of time. So like Mike said, it was a rush job. They kind of got everything together, got to go. They had campaign manager Nelson Rising was an associate producer on the film, and the reason why he got that was because he was the one who was finding political locations in the Bay Area for them to shoot, and he would also supply political volunteers for all the campaign extras. So he was putting all the extras in there. He was getting the locations to shoot where other people would be at, like their whole campaign headquarters, which looks like an old casino or whatever they are.
I noticed that because it's like the room where it's just all mirrors. I was like, it's like a carnival house.
So like, I mean, when they go down to the beach, when it was the polluted beach that they're down there, like stuff like that, like he's getting them that stuff. So I thought that this movie feels like it took a lot of people to get this movie made, which is kind of cool that you know what I mean?
I like the fact that it's like a split between like actual movie makers and actual people that run campaign, because there's not too much difference between apparently what we've learned between Ides of March 2 seasons ago and this film is like there's not much difference between doing a stage play and running a campaign. You're just doing little shows here and there. You're doing like a traveling show.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool that they got the experts at that to help them with this film.
And Lerner took a lot of stories that he either experienced on a campaign or he heard about from other campaigns, and he put it in this movie.
Including one of my favorite shots.
Go ahead.
The guy who comes up to him and says, "Hey, you want a hot dog and a soda?" And then he gives it and he punches him right in the face.
Yeah. He said that happened to Eugene McCarthy. Like that really happened, which I believe. Or the guy in the men's room that berates him.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, hey, your dad was whatever he says, a jerk or whatever.
Jerk,
he was.
you're a jerk.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're an ass. Your dad was an ass.
Something like that. Yeah.
But that didn't like surprise me. I'm like, all politicians must get that, especially if you're a Kennedy and you walk somewhere, you're going to get that.
Of course.
Like a family of politicians, but like the hot dog thing, but with the hot dog thing, I would have liked the next shot of him just finishing the hot dog with like maybe a little bit of a shiner and just been like, whatever, I got a hot dog.
So also Lerner talked about how when he was writing the character for Redford, that, Redford actually went to him and said, look, I can easily play a character that's stupider than myself.
Right.
But I can't be a bad guy. My public wouldn't stand for it. So, which is interesting.
It's very political of him right off the bat.
Well, I mean, I think he knows what people are going to go to the movies for, like what they want to see him in as, you know what I mean? But also maybe he was self-conscious about who he's portrayed on screen.
I can see that. But I like it's always interesting when someone you never see plays a bad guy plays all of a sudden does a heel turn. It's like, whoa.
Aside from the Marvel movies, what other movies Redford bad in?
Oh, he's not. I'm saying other actors though. But yeah.
Well, you didn't like Harrison Ford as from What Lies Beneath.
But that's because Harrison Ford is like my hero. So I did not like that. Plus his turn.
What Lies Beneath fight coming.
His turn just is like, whoa.
So it's whatever you think is important. Now it's still he's still a bad guy. Shut up.
But I usually like it. And usually like that's interesting. But I don't think it works for the candidate. You want someone who's idealistic going toward not a dark side, because that would have felt disingenuous. Just going toward this is the bland side. No,
this is selling your soul, basically like a death of 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
This is like selling your soul, not realizing you're selling your soul till it's too late. You're giving in, you're giving concessions, you're appeasing until then all of a sudden you realize you've got nothing there, and you're like, oh my God, I'm fully what I don't want to be. Like, that's what this is. And that's what he realizes at the end, towards the end. Like when, like there's a moment, there's a line. It's before his, like, what do we do now? It's before the line when he wins, and father turns to him, is like, son, you're a politician.
Yep,
and I'm just, and he's like, oh no. Like, it's like that line. I'm just like, ooh, I would go one line that makes dad happy and scares the crap out of the son. And it's just like, basically, you're like me now almost. And you're just like, oh.
Right after that, when they go into the elevator and the Hispanic guy's like, hey, you're not supposed to be here at the two of them. Like, the symbolism was it was so on the nose. I was like, I get it. It's like, yes, they're not supposed to have won. I get it. Very clever. Ha ha. I was like,
well, come on, it's another line. It's another sign for Bill McKay.
Yeah. But it's not like the whole movie's supposed to be him selling his soul, but it's not like now he won. Now what is he going to like? Well, he says now what, but it's like, is he going to sell now that he's already the senator? He can just waste his 6 years doing whatever he wants. He's won.
Well,
nothing says that he can't try to stand up for what he believes.
Well, he's got to move to Washington because Nancy's talking about how she wants to look at Georgetown for a house. She says that in the background. Yep. He's going to this is what's going to happen. He's going to go out to Washington. He's going to go be a senator. They're going to go live out there, and he's probably going to just become a politician now.
Bang a lot more mistresses.
And let's be honest. He's a good looking senator from the state of California. I'm telling you right now, he's probably running for president. He's probably going to be running for president, which I would have loved. I kind of would have been okay with a sequel. Yeah. Because you kind of like, this is because when he's like, so what do we do now? And I'm sitting there going like, I kind of want to know what goes on now. Like
is he going to, now that he's a senator, is he going to stand up for his morals now? Is he going to be like,
he's going to find it very hard to.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the other thing that I've always been very curious about politics. Like I said, I'm not very political, but like when people that aren't lifetime politicians, like I'll just use Trump for an example, just because he's the more recent one. He's a businessman. Like all of a sudden now you're a politician. Yeah, a lot you got to learn. Yeah, you have social studies class and civics class, but like now it's like
that's not
that's not really teaching you. Like,
that's clearly important, and candidates don't win campaigns. The people who are running the campaigns win campaigns.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so the candidate just has to, if it's somebody who can speak well and and looks well and can carry himself or herself, and they've got people behind them that prop them up, that give them all the facts, that give them all the stuff. Politics is just theater. It's just,
absolutely.
That's all it is.
It's like once you're in, like I've always been interested in like, what's the learning curve?
There's getting the job and then there's keeping the job. There's two different, there's getting the job and keeping the job. Like Crocker German has a considerable advantage because he can sit back and be like, I've done this. What have you done? I've done this. He can say that.
Look at like in the state of Connecticut, we've got people that have been in office for forever because they've just been in office. And if things don't go wrong, you don't really like, it's not hard if as long as you don't screw up.
Yeah.
You're good to keep going.
Maybe you should run. Maybe you should run for office.
He's sweating under the lights. I'd be like Nixon in his first political campaign, which he lost.
Well, that's what I wanted to bring up because obviously, TV was, when they talk to the Alan character, that's not his name. They talk to the Klein character. Alan Garfield's the actor. They talk to the Klein character. He's talking about TV. How you're going to look. I'm going to make you look like that. Make you look like that.
Oh yeah. Keep your eyes. Yeah.
And this is what? 10 years, 12 years from the Nixon debate with Kennedy. And that's pretty much kind of like where Nixon was sweating and he looked terrible. Why he lost
his first one.
That's pretty much why that was part of the reason that helped Kennedy, obviously a great deal. But like now that suddenly like TV was a medium where, you could win or lose an election with how you were on TV. So now we're 12 years later with 72, right? My math, right? Yeah. 10 years later. And that's all they're talking about. So I think that like that whole aspect of television, like what they were, I found that fascinating because you're really in the time of like, we really can use this to really get at Jarman. To really kind of make you the candidate we want to make you. So I thought that was extremely fascinating, that aspect of it. Bill kind of won because won because of that, because totally he won because he was young and good looking and he could talk and he could,
and at the end of the debate, he finally broke away from the script, got kind of frustrated.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of threw off.
But it didn't matter.
And then he was like, well, you got, and it's like, that makes him look weak.
It does. But they didn't like that with like in the movie.
It went off the script. And
right. Because Bill wasn't following what they're doing. But then it didn't matter because that's when his father came in and was like endorsing him. And it's like, it didn't matter now.
That's why Lucas was like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Do you like the Lucas character, the Peter Boyle character? Do you like him as a person in the movie?
I don't like that he's the same age as me and he looks the way he does.
A lot of people look.
Ooh, that's a harsh myth. But I think he did that because there were pictures of him like 10 years later in a movie. I'm like, he must have shaved it on purpose or
maybe
than that. But I like him because he's not a douche.
He's straightforward.
He's very straightforward, but he's not quite at like Philip Seymour Hoffman's level in Miles of March.
Yes.
I feel like he genuinely likes Bill McKay and maybe does like what he stands for. He likes that he stands for something, but that's not the job. That's not like, he's not quite Ryan Gosling's character in Rides of March where he's like, oh yeah, he's got this moral backbone. He's like, all right, you're a good guy. But also I still got to do my job.
He doesn't care that he's cheating on his wife. He's like, you're late for this meeting with the labor union, with the head of the labor.
Right.
Yeah.
But like but he's probably used to that, whatever.
Sure.
So he's in this gray area, but he kind of likes Bill.
I think you as a campaign manager, you have to be you're living in gray. You're living in the gray.
Oh, for sure. But I do like that he's slightly friendly with him because if everything was so detached from Bill and he didn't have that kind of person to kind of latch onto, or if we didn't as the viewer.
Right.
Like there are just so many disparate people that like whose names, like if we didn't have the cast list in front of us, I couldn't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's good that Lucas was there as like our focal point. Like he's always kind of revolving around Bill.
Yeah, there was a dude that showed up who was talking about the parade route, and then
the guy in the room, and then he's in a lot of other.
And then he's everywhere. And I'm just like, who are you? Like,
he looked really familiar, and I couldn't figure out.
There's a lot of people in this movie that I was like, I know I've seen him in something else.
Yep.
And then I'm looking at him and go, I can't find him on this list.
It's the same thing with like four other people. I'm like, come on.
I know. So there's a bunch of different people like that, and I think a movie now would do a better job of with those people. You would know who they were. I just think that's the nature of the business. You would know all these people. But back then, it's just like everybody's in the room. Like, guys, let's get this. We need to get this in order.
I love that scene. They're just like, who got the prime rib? I got medium rare. That's mine. You got the sandwich. See how the sandwich is cut?
And then they're trying to also figure out the parade route where they're going to plant cars so that they can keep their supporters there. And
only one guy out of the 10 is listening. And it's like, all right, guys, let's figure this out. And you think they're like hunkering down at a meeting. It's like, the medium rare is mine.
Right. Who had the medium rare? Like that, that's the kind of humor in this movie. Very dry, very just like you have to kind of like, it's not going to hit you over the head, I think sometimes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I would still find it hard to classify it as a comedy, but I get like, in terms of movie classifications, you have to, but it's like, it's not really a drama, but I don't think it's a comedy.
No, I think it's it's a dark comedy because I think politics is you have to laugh or you're going to cry. I think that's part of it.
Oh, sure.
Because the absurdity of a lot of things. How about when they go to the fire, they're going to politicize the fire because of the watershed.
Oh, right.
Jarman shows up and Jarman does his speech, and Jarman in his speech talks about how the firefighters are risking their lives in this Holocaust. I was like, what? Like,
technically, the definition of a Holocaust is like a great fire.
But it's like, dude, like you can't. I mean, like,
it's really bad.
You didn't get hit over the head for that.
Even in the 70s, like that would have made headlines. Like, you don't say the H word unless you're talking about the Holocaust. Like, you don't just use it as a comparison to something else.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's how old school he is. I think maybe that's supposed to show how like not hip and with it.
I think he thinks he can't lose. I think that's the whole idea is like Jarman is not scared of him until they have the debate. Why he agrees to the debate in the end. Lucas says like they're worried, they're scared. You're making
because now
noise.
You have to, yeah. Well, because at the beginning also with the fire thing, that's when I realized like Bill really it's tough for him to. I didn't know if he was going to win or not because it's tough for him to stand a chance because oh my god, I keep forgetting his name.
Bill McKay.
No, the other guy.
Crocker Jarman. How do you not remember Crocker?
Crocker Jarman was like, well, I have this watershed bill. We're going to fix the watershed, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's what Bill was trying to say. And it's like, he's already in office. So he can start enacting these things ahead of whatever Bill says. Well, and if Bill says something that's a good idea, Crocker just be like, yeah, I'm doing that too.
But you also have an inexperienced politician in Bill McKay in the beginning. So he's not like, he can't. He can't expose his. He thinks he can just sit. He come out. He'll just talk. People listen. But then you suddenly realize, no, you gotta hit your moments. You gotta really know what to say.
Four people in the auditorium.
Right, yeah.
Anybody got a question, comment, concern, dirty joke? I love when he's in the car and he's so sick of his own speech, and at the end he's like, "So vote once, vote twice for Bill McKay." You middle class honkies.
A better way to screw them all. Yeah. So New York Times, Vincent Canby called the film, quote, one of the few good, truly funny American political comedies ever made. And that, quote, the candidate is serious, but its tone is coldly comic as if it had been put together by people who had given up hope. So I think the comedy that you're talking about, the political comedy maybe also is the movie in its totality, where just kind of the idea
of politics,
but also how silly it is for a person to think that he can be an idealistic candidate and win. But but when you realize, no, you have to basically commit to selling your soul if you want to get into office.
Yeah.
Like that's the comedy. Like it's a tragic comedy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's sometime, I don't know.
The other thing is like the first like true good, like I don't know how many, like it's 1972. I don't know how many really political comedies there have been.
Oh no, since then, no. I mean, back then, no. Well, maybe that's kind of the point. Like maybe all the comedy,
how small is the pool?
All the political stuff you saw is like, you know, like we saw the Star Chamber and stuff like that. Remember we did that episode.
Star Chamber would have been after, right?
No, but I'm saying like those type of films, like serious. Sure, Shampoo is kind of comedic with Warren Beatty, and that's about that deals with politics a little bit.
after as well, right?
No. Yeah, no,
okay,
all these are after. So that's a little bit like that. Maybe Bulworth is obviously in the
Bulworth.
90s.
I was going to say 90s, you start to see a lot of them.
Yeah. So maybe back then it's more serious. It's more, maybe it's like crime driven or film noir or the, you know what I mean?
Or
like
just drama, yeah. Like Citizen Kane.
Right.
And stuff like that.
Did you know that Jimmy Stewart was offered the role of Crocker Jarman?
I saw that and he thought it looked like it was a bad.
It was derogatory toward conservative politicians, yeah.
But I don't agree with that. I don't think it does.
Well, Jarman's because it's not.
Jarman's the villain character because his hero's voting against him.
He's attacking him for all this politics.
Crocker Jarman doesn't really say anything that's like ridiculous that would make you go, ugh.
Well, if you're a Democrat, you might patently disagree with what he says.
Yeah, but within the movie, he doesn't really say anything, which I think is the point, is that you have to be super bland on the campaign trail. So it's like, I don't think it paints conservatives in a bad light when he doesn't say anything.
How about this? The stuff they're talking about and the stuff that they're fighting about is the same stuff we fight about now.
I noticed the same thing. Yeah.
And this is not the first time I've noticed that in this type of film. I've noticed it in other movies. It's just like abortion, race, pollution, just, global warming. Yeah. Just, employment. Same touch points. Yep. Hey, I mean, with the exception of obviously there's as you get on now, police, but like obviously newer now, it's like AI and all that stuff and crypto and stuff like that. Obviously stuff's different as you move on, but the base talking points of the campaigns are the same. It's pretty much, and that's 50 years ago. 70, Michael, come on, 50 years ago. So I thought that's extremely just like, that's like a really interesting, I keep saying fascinating, but it is. It's fascinating. It's just like, we keep talking about the same stuff over and over and over again.
People don't change.
And the hot button topics don't change. So where was I? Oh, Variety called this film, quote, an excellent topical drama that was, quote, directed and paced superbly. Adding the entire film often seems like a documentary special in the best sense of the word. So that's kind of what I was saying a little bit. Let me give you a couple bad ones for you. Gary Arnold of the Washington Post panned the film, saying, quote, a remarkably shallow, hypocritical attempt to satirize the American political process. The problem with the filmmakers is that their disillusion is neither honestly felt nor dramatically demonstrated and earned. On the contrary, it seems merely a professional pose, a phony mask of invulnerability and moral superiority. So Gary Arnold is saying that you think you're better than us.
Gary Arnold doesn't live in the 2020s where everyone's disillusioned.
Correct.
He would not be feeling that way today.
Gary Arnold, the father of Hey Arnold. No, I'm just joking. That's not true. That's not true.
Football head.
And then Penelope Gilliatt of The New Yorker called it, quote, a dire film, with a crass script, and found Redford's resemblance to a Kennedy brother merciless to watchers and unbelievably opportunistic on the part of the filmmakers. It is one of the most vulgar pieces of casting I can remember. Penelope. This is his movie. He came up with this film. Somebody doesn't like somebody.
This is why Redford didn't win Oscars back in the day. No one liked him.
I mean, that's like you're basically saying that he's too good looking to be in this film.
He's too pretty to play this
How
character.
Dare you, Robert? How dare you?
Clearly mocking the Kennedys.
Oh, yeah, of course. Like, so you don't like the Kennedys or him or good looking people in movies that are saying like
she really likes the Kennedys and doesn't like how they're being mocked.
Maybe. Okay, maybe that's probably more accurate. But still, I mean, I know this was 50 years ago, but you're way off base. I was like, ooh, talk about a review that's just like, come on now. And I got one more review for you, Butler. Dan Quayle loved this movie.
I saw that.
So Dan Quayle, for those out there who don't know, Dan Quayle ran as on the ticket with George Bush, not George W., George Herbert Bush, and he was the VP candidate, and he became VP. And he stated that that he had seen this film multiple times and had modeled himself after the main character, Bill McKay, to the point where the writer, Larner, wrote an open letter to him saying that, quote, this is not a how-to picture. It's a watch out picture, and you're what we've got to watch out for. So I thought that was interesting.
I watched it. I loved it. I love the way he sold his soul and the blandness and not standing for anything.
So, I mean, for those who do know of Dan Quayle and all that stuff, I'm sure you're like, but for people who don't, go back and look. Go back and kind of just look at that kind of stuff and just like the run for presidential and then Quayle in office. It's great. Yeah, so I thought that was fun too. Mike, are you recommending this to people?
I know I said I was like, it's okay. I enjoyed that I watched it. I just don't think it was as like, I'm not as up on it as you, but I still think, yeah, because just like Ides of March, I think it presents something for people like you and I are very political.
We are?
No, aren't very.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, we're not.
I'm not.
Obviously we have things we believe in, but we're not like super political about it. But it's still
none of your
interesting.
business.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It's still interesting to see what goes on behind the scenes. Like these are the people running our lives. And it's really interesting to see and take a peek behind the curtain in a way that's not like I really like Bulworth. And I don't know. I thought about putting it on the list.
Like Bulworth.
I don't know why I didn't put it on our forgotten list yet. And movies like that, but that's more comedic.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like Ides of March, where it's like, it's a really interesting peek behind the curtains on how they get themselves into office and how they, like you said, sell their soul or come up with new ideas, new plans and pivot to whatever it takes to get into office. And I think that's really, really fascinating. And I think it should be fascinating to anyone who lives in this country. It's got that 70s style though. It's got that 70s filmmaking mentality, not just the voices that I can't stand, that kind of stuff. Just in terms of like the pacing and stuff, I can't recommend it to people that are probably younger than me because they have no attention span. But anyone my age or older, like, I don't know if our buddy Sarami has watched this movie. I assume he has. But I think he would find this endlessly fascinating.
He would, and I should have asked him if he watched it, if he's seen it. He might have, and if not, see, the problem is that if I recommend it to him, then I'm just gonna have to listen to him talk about politics for like another hour. And I sometimes I have to tell him like, enough, man, enough. He doesn't even want to listen to the show. That he'll never know that I'm saying any of this.
So I think so, like people like him, he would find it. He would really like it and dig it. People that it didn't make a lot of money when it first came out, so I'm sure there's a lot of people like I don't know if my parents have seen it. My dad would probably really like it. I think it's a really fascinating look behind the curtain. I think it presents a story that's interesting. And I think if you like filmmaking, you like Robert Redford. Like I was just really interested to see Robert Redford. I like him in movies. So when there's a movie I haven't seen with him, I'm like, yeah, all right, cool.
I think if somebody I knew liked character-based dramas or movies about characters, not plot driven, but character driven, I think I would recommend it to. I think I would recommend it to people that probably have the same sensibilities as I do in terms of movies and filmmaking. If they like I said, I've always said, like, I've liked 70s from like older films. If they're into that kind of stuff, and I knew like they love 3 Days of the Condor, or they like older Redford, like that kind of stuff, I'd be like, oh, you should check this out. But under the caveat that it's more character, it's a character piece than
3
it
Days
is.
of the Condor
No, I know. Faster. I'm talking about older films. You talk about the talking and all that stuff. I think All the President's Men had a lot of that stuff too when they're in the newsroom and all that stuff, and it's loud, and they had a lot of that. But to All the President's Men is about something that they're trying to uncover, so you're kind of like pulled into that. This is not like that.
Yeah, this is character.
This is basically like, I'm Bill McKay, I'm going to do this my own way, no one's going to tell me not. And then the movie's like, the fuck you are. I'm sorry. but that, I think that's what's fascinating about it. And yeah, I think like, no politician, anybody that likes politics, I'd recommend it to. I know why we're going to say it's forgotten, because it's 50 years old, but go ahead. Why is it forgotten?
It's forgotten because it's 50 years old. No one's seen it. It didn't make a lot of money. It won Best Original Screenplay, but apparently only opened in New York. Made more money overseas, which is weird. Your numbers make no sense, but it still shows that it wasn't really that widely viewed. So I think that kind of lowers it down. And old Robert Redford, he's got or young Robert Redford rather, he's got Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He's got, so many other movies that are just bigger,
more widely known. And you're going to watch
All
the President's Men.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or you're going to do what you said, and you're going to know him from the Marvel movies, and that's it. Yeah, exactly. Please
know him from something other than that. Please, for the love of God, know him for something other than that. Know him for The Natural. Come on.
So he's got so many other bigger movies that just, I think people are just going to know him by instead of this one. So I think that's why it went by the wayside. and it's just not on a streamer. You could rent it, but it's not just.
I'm a little
It's
disappointed.
not just available.
I'm disappointed that Criterion Channel doesn't have this movie. I mean, especially now during election season. I mean, come on, Criterion Channel. Why isn't this on your streamer?
I'm surprised it's not on Max. It's Warner Brothers. You know what?
Come on, Wax. Why isn't it on your streamer?
That's one thing I'll say about Peacock. It's a terrible name for your streaming service. Just be Universal Plus or something, or Comcast Plus. But
how about you just lower the price? How about that? I don't care what you call yourself. Just lower the price.
I have the ads version.
I'm going to get the ads version.
What's nice is though, if you do a movie, the ads they play 3 ads at the beginning, and it does not play during your movie, which I appreciate.
I'm okay with that.
But Peacock, like you finish a movie and they give you the weirdest, like most esoteric, like movies you've never even heard of at the bottom of the list. Like, you should watch this and this. And I'm like, what are these movies? And then I start like writing them down, like, oh, this movie's cool. This, like, that's what more streamers should do. But yeah, it's not really, no one's paying $3.99 to rent this if they don't know what it is.
No, I mean,
so I think that's a shame.
Well, I'll get it. I'm not paying for it. This is what you've brought society to. But
I do think this movie would make a phenomenal stage play. I really think you could do it well with like minimal set, like kind of.
You're probably gonna have to rewrite it.
I think so, but I think a lot of the dialogue like really lends itself to a stage play.
But also, I think I'd want to investigate some more stuff. Like, I want to know about the other woman. I want to know about that stuff.
I think you need to add more scenes, more dialogue.
I want to know more about who Bill was and then who Bill becomes. I want to know, like, I want a little epilogue, like what happens, like stuff like that.
Oh, I don't know. I think the ending would make an even better like end for the stage, because you have the door closed and all of a sudden.
Okay, fine, but like I think like there's no point in this movie if I'm thinking this, and I kind of want to hear Lucas or somebody say like they think he can be run for president. Like, I want to hear that. Like, because if I'm thinking that, like, that's got to be in the back of your mind that he, like, this guy's young, this guy's good looking, people like him. We just beat somebody that nobody said we could beat.
That's why his dad said, like, this guy doesn't stand a chance. So sure he does. He's cute.
Yeah.
Like, his dad knows. Yeah. His dad knows he can do
his dad's beaming because he probably never thought he probably didn't get along with his son because he did what he wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, his dad's clearly Republican. His son's a liberal, and his son clearly does not like his father, prefers his mother.
But honestly, I'd kind of like to see some scenes there with them. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to see all that.
Well, that's my thing is, like, I would skip some of the scenes where I can't hear people talking and learn more about Bill McKay.
I'm just saying, like, you can probably add an enhance to it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think a stage. Let's go. We'll open off Broadway next month.
Who's in it? Am I in it or am I writing it? I'm writing it, aren't I?
Oh yeah, you're right. We'll write it.
Do I have to direct it?
No, we'll find somebody else.
Okay, fine. Let's go. Off Broadway, we'll just go to the Bijou in Bridgeport. We'll do it right there.
All right, let's go.
All right, already. I told you I got a play I want to do. Let's go.
We got to pay we probably got to pay Lerner and Warner Brothers though for the rights.
Well, we'll just call it something else and say it's not.
Ooh, I like
we'll
that.
Delete this podcast one.
Jill Majay is the main character.
One final thought, Butler, before I kick it, before I say our usual ending.
Okay.
Have you ever known anybody to eat lollipops with a hammer?
I thought that was so weird.
And it's almost like he's got a special tiny
hammer just to crush lollipops.
To crush those lollipops. I'm just like,
maybe he doesn't want to be seen sucking on them. So he's too manly to be.
My quote is, I hammer my lollipops and eat them with my hands. I'm badass.
I like
that's my quote.
I like them when they're broken shards.
Hey, I want to make you famous. And I'm just like what? If
they don't cut my gums, I don't want.
I thought that was just like, where did this come from? But anyways, Mike, I got nothing else. So
I got nothing else.
So now
this is going to be a long edit.
Oh, actually, no. I should say where can they find us?
Oh yeah, that's what you were
I totally forgot. I was like, what?
You can find us right here. You're listening to us or you're watching us. You're here. You're right here anyway. Can you just, leave a little like, a comment? What did you think of the candidate? Have you ever seen it? Do you want to see it? What's your favorite political satire movie? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to support the show, we're on Patreon. You can, for just, the price of a cup of coffee a month, you can sign up. You get early access to episodes. You get exclusive episodes just for you guys. We got a ton of those on our platform already. And you get to vote for a an episode we do every season. That's coming up in 5 weeks, I believe, from now. So the patrons will choose the episode that we do there. So that's pretty cool. And you'll support the show.
That's pretty cool, right?
If you go on ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com, we also have a merch store. You can support us there or just keep watching the show. We come out every Wednesday. We do special episodes now, showing episodes. So we do take a look at new movies as well. So check all that out. I think where this is happening, it should be the week we do Gladiator 2, or we're doing Gladiator 2 the week after. So check that out.
And season 19, winter is coming, rolls along, and we're going to the 90s, Mike, next week, 1993.
Which means we'll never find the movie.
When I was graduating high school. We're doing some aliens. We're doing some, I guess, I don't know if it's a drama, adventure. I don't know. Fire in the Sky, D.B. Sweeney and Robert Patrick. Kind of based on a true story, if you believe in that sort of thing, right, Mike?
Kind of.
Well, it is based on a true story in terms of what happened to these guys in like the town and all that stuff. But
I know the story of
you've never seen
what happened,
this,
but I've never seen it. I saw it. I put it on the list because I saw an Instagram clip from like one of the moments in the movie, and I was just like, "Why have I never seen this movie?" But I had always known of the story it's based on.
See, that surprises.
So
you came to X-Files late.
No, I watched X-Files when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't have.
But this was on this came on like when X-Files was big.
And I had seen it on TV a couple times and just like paid it no mind.
Okay.
But now that I'm older, I'm like,
all right,
why didn't I just stick with it and finish watching?
All right, here we go. Fire in the Sky next week. So watch it if you can find it. We're going to try to find it and then we'll watch it and the show will go on. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.